People who have visited the US, what is your WTF America story? I'm Canadian and I went down to the US to do a little shopping. I accidentally pulled out some Canadian bills and the cashier asked why I kept Monopoly money in my wallet. A lot of people might say it was just sarcasm. I don't think it was. The cashier looked around 16 years old. She had probably never seen Canadian money before. When I started awkwardly chuckling, she had a puzzled look on her face. But who knows, maybe she was just really invested in a joke. As a Michigander, it is always common to pay with accidental Canadian and to receive the accidental Canadian currency. It pisses me off when I didn't pay attention. Those gaps in your toilet stall doors, what are they even for? To clarify, I meant the gaps in the sides of the door, not the bottom. Peeking. I visited from Canada a couple years ago. Everyone was very nice and had the exact same mildly interested reaction to a credit card with a chip. We've finally started transitioning to these in the last year or year and a half. We're a bit behind. After moving from Africa, as a teen, I am repeatedly asked why I moved to Africa in the first place, to which I reply that I've always lived there. I am also asked, so why are you white? To which I reply, oh my god, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white. However, when they reply with blank stares, I realize they aren't referencing Mean Girls. Some other questions, so Africa is one country and all the borderlines are, like, states, are there, buildings, you guys have memes over there, right, are you Australian? Australian here. I went to Houston last year and spoke to a girl my age in the airport. We got chatting about uni college. It was around July, and she asked me if I was on my summer vacation. I casually explained I was on my winter break. She was genuinely confused and did not understand how it was summer in the US but winter in Australia. I tried to explain but eventually gave up. An American once complimented me on my excellent English when I told her I was from Australia. Aussie here. When I started chatting to a cashier, she squealed and asked where I was from. I told her Australia and she instantly dumped down how she spoke. Do y'all speak English down there? I replied sporadically. She laughed and informed me that wasn't a word. Singaporean here. I feel your pain. You speak really good English for an Asian. When I went to the US the first time and ordered a meal from Burger King, ordering a large fry, Coke, and a Whopper, I was blown away by the size of it all. Each item was larger than the same item back home. I was already like WTF, but then the cashier said I could have a second Whopper for $1. Again, I was like WTF, sign me up. Another time, while I was in Daytona, I went to a restaurant and the woman kept refilling my drink, again and again. Being a bit shy, I did not tell her to stop, and expected a bill with $15 for sodas, but then I found out the refills were free. WTF. Free refills. I'd only seen that at places like Subway, but so many restaurants in the US had free refills. I love the US. For restaurants and food in general, the portions are massive and very reasonably priced. Went to Walmart. The fabled creatures there are just as the internet portrays them as, nonetheless still mind-blowing. My first trip into a Walmart, I saw a man in a brass button blazer with perfectly brill-creamed hair, sparkling white teeth, orange skin and white slacks that looked like he had stepped right out of an advert from the 1950s. He was with a very large woman wearing a I love my gay daughter t-shirt. I was so happy. How spread out everything is. Like, it's pretty much impossible for me to survive without a car, while everywhere I needed to go on a regular basis back in London was in a 10-minute biking distance. Also, the number of pickup trucks people own without needing. It has come to my attention that the city I live in, Jacksonville, Florida, is the widest city in the 48 contiguous states of the US, with a population of just under 1 million. That explains a lot. Especially out here in the West. The metro area I live in is like 8% the size of London population wise, but it'll take you 45 minutes by car to drive from one side of town to another. If you live anywhere in America outside of Washington DC, New York, Boston, downtown Chicago or a few other places, it's vital to own a car. Every single one of you bastards asked me where in England I was from. I'm from Australia. Pretty much as far away from England as you can get without leaving the planet. Asked a girl in a hooker lounge if she knew where New Zealand, my home country, was. She replied asking, is that the country above us? Well, it is a globe. If you get the angle right, you'll hit New Zealand eventually. A universal WTF for both foreign and US citizens. The Golden Corral. Everything was submerged in liquid butter. The patrons were larger than some cars. One time at Golden Corral many years back, I saw an overweight guy in suspenders whose chest, primarily due to the suspenders, was a freaking square. He wasn't round. Instead he was wide but flat. He was only about 5 feet 5 inches, so that likely played a role into his geometric shape as well. Was the most mind-blowing thing I'd ever seen from a Golden Corral. I'd never been out of Australia before. In Australia only farmers and cops have guns. And some criminals, I guess. So I had never seen a gun that wasn't in a cop's holster in my entire 30-year existence. We go to the US for our honeymoon and have the honor and privilege of visiting a Walmart. The guns are just on the shelf. You can touch them. A fellow Aussie friend who was with us at the time asked the cashier if she could hold one. He looked at her as if she had asked if it was okay to breathe the store's air. Can I hold one? This big one, she asked, incredulous. Sure, if you want to, the guy said, confused and bored at the same time. She picked up this big butt gun. Sorry, not a gun guy. Don't know what it was. It was about the size of a shotgun but was bulkier, and was getting us to take photos of her with it. If I had a gun like that at home and walked outside my house with it, someone would drive past and see me in about 10 seconds. They would call the cops, which would take about 30 seconds. The police station is just up the road, so I estimate a cop car would arrive in about 3 minutes. And it would take about 10 seconds for a cop to ask me politely to jump in his car and come for a nice chat down at the police station. But it would be fun for 4 minutes. Honeymoon was not literally at Walmart. Honeymoon was 2-week Kentucky tour followed by 1 week in NYC. Fun times. About the size of a shotgun but was bulkier. That sounds like a shotgun. I was in Vegas with 3 Danish friends, and we were very hungover. 3 of us, not the driver. We decided to go for a drive in the convertible. After 15 minutes, a police officer on a bike drives up next to us and just stares into the car. This lasted like 5-10 seconds. So the driver turns his head and asks, anything wrong, officer? The officer replied, in a super angry tone, keep your motherfucking eyes on the motherfucking road. He continued to follow us for about a mile, just staring at us. Super freaking creepy. Also had bad police experiences in Florida, New York, and San Diego. Some people join because they honestly want to help people, and then a distressing segment joins because they are power-hungry psychopaths. I'm from Canada, and the first thing I saw upon my arrival to Port Angeles, Washington, which happened to be the first time I stepped foot in the States, was a large spherical lady sitting in the middle of the sidewalk blocking my path to the bus terminal, just staring at me. Another time, I was in San Diego one summer and a woman, genuinely curious, asked me if it was summer in Vancouver too. On a bus going into New York City from New Jersey, there was a middle-aged white man on the bus. As he goes to get off the bus, I notice the tip of a used condom hanging out of the back pocket of his khaki pants. Instead of saying thank you as he is leaving the bus, he tells the young black female bus driver, not too bad for being black. Dude was not masturbating on the bus, nor did he frick the bus driver. He was sitting a few seats away from me. That would be an even more WTF moment, which I would have included in my original post. That's just Uncle Bob. He's harmless. Do you know any Vikings? Asked by a nice young blonde with a straight and serious face in McDonald's. I'm from Denmark. Also, good God, Texas has a lot of fat people. I went to Applebee's. Mistake number 1, I guess. I was then served by a nice young lady called Brittany who asked me with a serious face if we have trees in Scotland. Sorry about that. Everyone knows Brittany is an idiot. Brit here. We went to Ruby Tuesdays in the Florida Mall and saw a woman take a bowl from the salad bar, fill it with ranch dressing and sit back at her table eating it like it was soup. Luckily that wasn't the only treat Florida had for us on that trip. I think Florida is just like one giant Walmart. I was in an Uber going to the airport and the driver asked where I was flying to. I said Hong Kong. He asked if I spoke Japanese. I told him that we speak Chinese in Hong Kong. He says what's the difference? H's genuinely didn't know that Japanese and Chinese were different languages. Went into a shop. They had spray on cheese. I don't think the majority of Americans here know how ridiculous that sounds to the rest of us. Spray on cheese. I'm from the UK, lived in the US for about 5 years now. Few things that annoy me. You want to get a loan for a new car? There's a fee for that, on top of the interest. You want to take money out of the ATM? There's a fee for that. You want to exchange some currency? There's a fee for that, on top of the exchange spread. A product has money off? You'll have to send something to receive it. They hope you can't be bothered. Pretty much any service, someone will try to make a few extra dollars off you. Credit unions are your friend. Was in Spokane at Silverwood amusement park and asked where the washroom was. I was promptly told there were no washrooms in the park. This happened a good handful of times and it never even occurred to me that I had to say restroom to receive any real help. Weird, although we don't typically say washroom, I can't imagine someone not knowing that it is synonymous with bathroom. Sounds like you ran into a handful of real boneheads. I visited America recently, and there are so many more people than I'm used to. I come from New Zealand, and our biggest city only has about 1.3 to 1.5 million people in it, and the total population is around 4.471 million people. And even Auckland is too big for me. I'm a Wellington man for sure. I'm Canadian and have visited the United States multiple times and have had an overall enjoyable experience on each one. I wouldn't blame this on America, but I saw a fat bald middle-aged man standing on the side of a Pennsylvania highway with bunny ears. I'm sure this happens in Canada too, but this is the first time I've seen something like this. I saw a fat bald middle-aged man standing on the side of a Pennsylvania highway with bunny ears. Easter Bunny has had a rough few years. People just don't care about Jesus coming back anymore. Well, I hadn't even arrived yet in the US, but in the plane as a foreigner you have to fill a paper to enter the country with various questions, among which did you come to murder the President of the United States? WTF America? President is murdered. He selected no in that field of the form. There's no way we could have stopped him. I'm American, but live in France at the moment. French people love telling me about the time they went to the US and the crazy things that they saw. Two of my favorites are: 1. A friend was complaining about the food in the US and then said, and we went to this restaurant and they only had one food, only pizza. And 2. A French friend visited the US and people kept saying voulez-vous coucher avec moi, c'est soy to him. This is a rather shocking thing to say to a stranger. I visited the US. Never understood suburban young kids with huge trucks that clearly do not do any manual labor. I visited, but I also have lived here my whole life. I was walking down the strip in Vegas at 2:30 AM and got talking to some lads who were making a stop on their drive cross country from college. This one guy was special. First thing he couldn't understand was that although it was 2:30 AM in Vegas, it was 10:30 AM in the UK. Then he didn't believe we'd suffered a terrorist attack in London. 7/7. Lastly, no matter how I protested, he refused to believe our police didn't carry guns. Then he stopped for a second, looked really thoughtful and said, I guess you guys don't have black people in England. I went to Florida shortly after there had been a hurricane and a lot of people's homes and businesses got completely trashed. There were a surprising amount of local people we spoke to who were content with their livelihoods being destroyed because it was God's will. I lived in the US for a year previously, in Texas. Over this time I got a lot of comments on my accent. I'm English, but the most WTF one went like this. Oh, I like your accent. Where are you from? Me. Thank you. I'm from England. Your English is very good. Me. Confused smiler. Thank you. So, what language do you speak in England? Me. Laugh. Thinking this is a joke. Deadpan confused look. Me. English. Then there was the time someone was convinced I was Australian. I'm a northerner. I have a Yorkshire accent. Even one new person shares in this horror. It's worth taking the minutes to answer. On a Greyhound I saw a mom mix Mountain Dew and breast milk in a bottle and feed it to her baby. Not a WTF America moment, but I met an absolute idiot in Orange County, Cali. She was fascinated when my friend told her that we are Irish. She started asking crazy questions about Ireland. Questions like, do fairies really live there? And is it true you guys have no electricity or roads in Ireland? She fully believed us when we told her that we do have roads but we have to take them in at night. She also fully believed us when we told her that we only have 6 days in a week because we had to get rid of Tuesdays. I've been many times, but the first time I went to downtown LA, it hit me how unglamorous parts of the US really are. Same with NY. You step outside of the business district and things look like really old and rundown. Waiting in the airport to fly home, went to McDonald's cause I was a bit hungry. Ordered a regular cheeseburger meal. The fries and drink were the size of larges back in the UK TBF. Not completely unexpected, but the crazy thing to me was I got 2 burgers. 2 on just a regular meal? You must have ordered the 2 cheeseburgers meal, which exists solely to convince consumers that 2 is greater than 1, so there must be more food in there. Have had a few. In a Cleveland mall, a guy runs down the elevator towards me and my group of friends yelling, "You guys from Canada?" We nervously replied that we were and asked how he could tell. His reply, "Because you all are wearing roots. NYC traveling from JFK to Long Island City on the highway in cab. Get rear-ended. Cabbie and previous driver stop. Get out and look at damage. Don't exchange info and continue on their merry ways. Always get escalator and elevators mixed up." And in regards to the nervousness, 18 years old kids in Cleveland for a business competition. So nerdy as frick. And it's America, eh? Who wouldn't be nervous? Well, their thinking is that if there's no real damage, it's a waste of time to wait hours for the cops to arrive to write a ticket, which may result in insurance raising your rate. I've been asked what state Ontario was in. When I told the lady it was a province in Canada, she was confused, like she had never ever heard of Canada. LOL. Then, and do we have Christmas, Halloween and Easter in Canada? You have highways in the Philippines? To be fair, there was also a well-educated guy who apologized on behalf of his country for the CIA-backed dictatorship they put up a while back. Nice guy. Probably an inverted WTF moment, where the Americans would have thought, WTF, these foreigners. When I uttered the sentence, "Don't mind him, he's just being a bit of a C," and received stares as if I had just threatened to blow up the whole office. I tried correcting myself by saying, "Sorry, I meant a freaking prick." Did not improve the situation. C is probably the strongest swear word you can use outside of racial slurs. A classmate in university back in 2003. Do you have computers in India? Did you go to school on your elephant? Yes and yes. That's why it's so easy to ride your mom. My first trip to Walmart, I was kind of overwhelmed by the sheer variety and range of food produce they had. And then I looked at a banana stand, which was just a plastic stick with a U on top. That's it for $8. Went to Texas to visit some friends. When we got to their place, the first thing they said was, "Wanna see our guns?" Having never seen a real gun in my life, I was pretty excited. They were cool guys, though they did all have a loaded handgun on their nightstands. We were in a steakhouse somewhere in New Jersey. We told the waitress that we were from Korea, and she said, "Oh, that's a city in Japan, right? I really want to go to Japan. Our great-grandparents were forced out of their land and killed in Manchuria by the Japanese during their occupation of Korea." I had trouble calming my dad down. Pretty much every question I was asked made me go, WTF. Do you have running water in New Zealand? Do you have glass windows? Do you have chickens over there? Do you guys have apples? That was asked while they were holding an apple with a sticker saying it was imported from NZ. Why don't you go live on the mainland? I found out after a while that they meant Australia. Also that it's just expected that everyone will exchange their gifts, and gift exchange cards are included in the gifts. Here, you get a gift and you freaking like it whether you like it or not. 2 moments in the US. when my friend and I decided to drive to downtown LA and we accidentally came across a ghetto. To paint a picture, few hundred of people loitering on per block, tents and rubbish everywhere on the street. The seriously WTF moment was when we literally turned around the block and it was back to cosmopolitan area. People shopping and going on with their lives. Starbucks. But being an Aussie, I got asked where I was from based on my accent. I responded, Australia. Full sincere moment I got asked, oh Australia, what language do you speak over there? I felt dumbfounded and guilty and said just Australian English. WTF America. WTF. My first trip to the US in 2012 and first stop was Chicago, visiting a friend of my American girlfriend who was studying there. So we go out on our first evening to some Asian place, yum, and I order a Coke. Wasn't 21 yet. As in Germany you can accumulate quite a bill when drinking a lot of beverages in restaurants. I was not going to drink more than what I needed for the meal. Mind you, we also don't get free water and air, which I think is awesome practice in the US. What is often done when you don't want the waiteress to ask you for another order of drinks is to leave some of the beverage in the glass enough that it clearly is not just leftover but could still be used to satisfy your thirst. This works reasonably well in Germany. Now back to the Asian restaurant in Chicago. I did exactly as described above, but still, the waiter came and asked if I wanted another Coke. I thought to myself, well, why not, and ordered. He then took my glass which still had this considerable amount of Coke in it. So I interrupted him and said wait, no, to which he replied no Coke, and I said yes Coke, with this one pointing. Also, which seemed to totally confuse the kind waiter. I then said I would like to order another Coke, but I would also like to finish this one, but was interrupted by my girlfriend who by that point was laughing already and sent the waiter off, leaving me reasonably upset before she could explain to me that non-alcoholic beverages are refilled for free in the US. I knew right that moment that America was everything I ever hoped it would be. 3. See you again soon, you magnificent bastard of a country. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.